Hey, what's up?
How are you?
Doing well. How are you guys?
I was just trying to figure out what garlic bars are and how to get them on TOS.
Oh, okay. Did you see the link that I posted on the announcements?
Yeah, I found it and it says it copied it. I'm just right now seeing if it will actually paste it.
Okay, yeah. If you go to studies, right, and now if you search up the study, you should be able to find it.
Oh, I searched like the existing studies and garlic garlic pulled up nothing. Usually you just have to put in one word, right?
Yeah. Um.
Garlic came up with nothing, and I also was looking at Ripster EMA Cloud, and Ripster came up with nothing. So it was odd. So I
That
assume they
is
were, but maybe I don't know. Maybe if I reboot.
I
So
can
they, but
share my whole
they're
setup
both
if you want.
sorry, they're both something that already comes in TOS.
No, this volume indicator I created myself.
The garlic one.
Yeah, yeah, the garlic one. That's why it's named garlic parmesan wings, whatever it's called.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've got
All
an
right. So
obsession with garlic parmesan.
Ripster EMA Cloud should be there though.
Yeah, that should be. Who went over that? Didn't Simple Trader go over that the other day? Yesterday?
I just saw it in the chat. I missed the.
Okay, I'll get in contact with him and figure out how to exactly pull it up. Because sometimes finding stuff on TOS is a little bit tricky. That's for sure. But yeah, I want those as sessions since a lot of people had questions about prior things going on, not prior things, like the prior videos we had. Um, Hey, guys, sorry about that. Just want to make sure you guys can hear me fine again, right?
Yeah, the garlic volume bars are really cool. Thanks.
Oh, you got it working? Okay, that's
Yep.
good.
Yep. Thanks.
How'd you fix it, if you don't mind me asking?
I copied the link, and then you
Uh-huh.
just let's see, what the heck was it called? You insert the something where you add let's
Oh,
see,
oh yeah. You went to
add
setup and press open shared item?
open shared item, and that's it. Yeah, popped right into my
Yeah.
studies. And I searched garlic, and it was right there.
Okay, sweet.
So
I just
obviously,
got
it
it.
gives you red and green in proportion to how much buying and selling there was in each candle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
What are the two indicators? The two
Which
lines.
indicator?
There's two. There's
Like,
also lines in there.
so this red line, from what I know, for what I remember, right? Because I coded this based on like a few different YouTube channels. So like I took some stuff from each video and I eventually made this. The red line is basically like average volume. It's like basically like the VWAP for like the stock for volume. You know what I
Well,
mean?
there's two yellow, and then there's a dotted green one.
That I don't know because all I have on mine is a red one.
Oh, okay. Well, there's one that's really jumping up and down the chart, kind of opposite to the volume. Then there's one that's sort of barely moves. And then the green line is just flat. So I'm not sure. That's probably something in relation to SPY because I have SPY up.
Okay, yeah, definitely send a picture in the channel. Look at it if you don't mind.
I will. Let me see. If, yeah, that it had to be in relation to SPY because when I pull up something else, it's moving. But
Yeah, just
yeah, I'll send it.
sweet. Okay. Um, so yeah, unfortunately, we're not gonna go over like any new topics today, because it's already 10:48. I got an exam tomorrow, 9:40. Unfortunately, I don't know if you guys saw on my alert channels. I was basically in the train the whole day. I only got one trade in, and then of course, I freaking missed my transfer station because I fell asleep listening to what was I listening to? I think I was listening to Lana Del Rey. I don't even know how that got on my playlist, but somehow Lana Del Rey came on and I just fell asleep because her music was boring to me.
She will put you to.
Anyways, music put me to sleep, so I missed my transfer station, so I couldn't trade as much. Um, so yeah, we're just gonna have like less than an hour live or something like that. We're gonna talk about your questions since a lot of people have questions about the how to do the supply and demand zones. Avi, you just asked how to find supply and demand zones. I did have a whole live about it, I think, 4 days ago. It's about 2 hours long. If you could watch that video first and then ask me, that would be amazing, because I kind of did explain how to plot them using the Heiken Ashy candles and stuff like that. So I wouldn't want to spend so much time revisiting that idea when we kind of did go over it. So if you don't mind just watching it and then come back to me, I would love to help you out. The next question is, can you show zones you plotted for tomorrow? I'll be honest with you guys. Whenever I plot zones, I always honestly just wait for pre-market, because of gap ups or gap downs. But I haven't revisited these zones in a while, because obviously, Friday, I don't know if you guys remember, I actually didn't trade. So yeah, so I didn't trade on Friday, and today I only did one trade. But basically, if you guys saw, we had this zone that we plotted on, I think it was I think it was what, the 3rd, March 3rd, when we had that live. So we plotted this demand zone right here. This is IWM, my bad. Let me go to SPY. So, okay. We had this, we plotted out this, this demand zone right here when we had that live. And it was a very, very good demand zone. And the thing is, we tested it and we kept on testing it. That, if you guys remember, I said that if you keep on testing a zone, it means that it's weak. And it also makes it from a fresh zone to a non-fresh zone. So you can actually use this as like similar as you would use resistance and support. So it's just like, let's say you have a support, right? Let's just go according to this red line here. This is the support I had previously. So if we go according to support, right, if we try to play the downside, we would wait for it to break it and then we would enter it, right? So it's basically, you could do the same thing for supply and demand zones. If you usually play supply and demand zones for the reversal. So in this case, right, like we had this demand zone right here, we had SPY trading down into the demand zone. The more probable situation, of course, if this was not already a weak zone, as you guys see, we tested it a lot over here. Over what, this is a 2-hour time frame, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 hours we tested this zone continuously. So that obviously makes this really weak, right? This zone really weak, so it becomes less valid and valid. So the way you guys would trade this, right, if it keeps on going into the zone and it keeps on testing it over a long time period and it's just either staying in it or above it, you could basically play the momentum it was going beforehand. So what I mean by this is we had this downtrend, right, by SPY, and we went into this demand zone. But since we kept on testing it so much and this zone got weaker and weaker, this basically tells us that there's so much selling volume that even though there's all these unfilled buying orders in this demand zone, the selling volume was so strong that we eventually just broke right through it. And once this this buying volume becomes so weak, the selling volume will become so strong that it will just overpower everything. So that's exactly what happened. Everything's not the proper term, but you know what I mean. Like, so that's how you can play the reversal for zones, but you could also play the continuous momentum, or whatever the proper terminology is. I'm not a terminology guy, but yeah. So this is how you could have played SPY today. Like, even if you go on a shorter time frame, you could have seen, like, look at this. We kept on testing it, right? We kept on testing it over and over again. And then you start seeing right over here, right? We had this big bullish candle, but followed by this big bullish candle, there was a lot of momentum, right? And we could see that we could see that the candle closed, not relatively high compared to as much volume as it had. It has such a long wick, right? So this means whenever there's high volume, right? There's high volume and there's a big wick. Like, for, let's say, if we have a big wick to the upside, that means there's a most likely, obviously nothing is certain, but most likely momentum to the downside that's going to continue, right? Because that means there was buying volume, it reached to a certain point, but then the selling volume was so strong, it overcame the buying volume, and the more probable situation is that the next few bars are going to be selling volume. So that's exactly what happened. As you guys can see, like, we had this high volume, right? And then right after that, we had this ugly candle, but we just had continuous sound volume right after that, and you could see like it was just a gradual decline instead of just it being choppy and showing no real momentum like it did right over here. You guys could see when we came into the zone, right? We came into this demand zone and SPY started bouncing literally right where I plotted this support. Crazy how kind of accurate it was, but it bounced off here, and even though it was trading upwards, you could see that this volume right here is very choppy. And when a volume is choppy or not strong, basically this implies that whatever momentum is going on is not believed by a lot of institutions to be the more favorable like trend, right? You can see every time we have a downwards momentum, we have volume that's either building up or we just have high volume. This basically implies that institutions and retail traders, but mostly institutions, have high confidence in this downward trend for the day. Versus you see like this uptrend right over here, this volume is basically poop. You know, it's nothing. It's zero. So it's just very just choppy. Doesn't show good confirmation of this uptrend. You could even see like these wicks are. This is the Heikinashi, right? If we even go to the just regular bars, you could see it's very like choppy bars. It's not like good momentum and stuff like that. So that's why volume is very important when you play it. So you could have played this to the downside because we kept on testing the demand zone, and then eventually buying volume was so weak, you could have gone to puts right here, and you could have just played this just perfectly right here. Um, so when it comes to zones for tomorrow, right?
去买
We'll look at if you guys could just keep your mics muted unless it's time for questions. If you guys
这个
have
电
any.
话有响的哈。OK，
Sorry, whoever's speaking, I do have to.
拿一些 paper 给我。啊
Oh wait, what? Okay, I think I muted them. Okay. Let's see. You guys asked basically zones for tomorrow. Well, obviously, SPY is bleeding, so the biggest zone we have to keep an eye on is right here. This demand zone right over here that we're approaching. So watch tomorrow, especially the pre-market. We could see a huge bounce over here. Because as you guys recall, like for demand zones, what you would do is you would plot the zone according to the last bearish candle before a big bullish movement, and vice versa for supply zones. You would plot the last bullish candle before a big bearish what's it called, bearish momentum. So according to that, we'll go to this bearish candle right here, plot this demand zone. So this is the main zone I'm looking at. If we, yeah, this is what I'm looking at, the 2 hour. That's probably what I'm gonna play a trade tomorrow if we see like if it's still trading around this area, right? Let me just go to a shorter time frame, like the 1 hour, and see if there's anything different there. I mean, the thing is, this you can somewhat consider this. First of all, let's just remove this. As I said, you know, you want to remove clutter, and that was just clutter, just like this zone right, this level right here. You want to remove as much clutter as you can, because sometimes it's just gonna make you a hesitant trader. So you could technically classify this as a supply zone, and in fact, you know, we'll plot that. It's not bad to plot it, but since this is not such a strong momentum right afterwards, right? You do not want to have such a high confidence if we were to trade upwards into this and be like, oh, it's definitely going to reverse into the downside. No, you can't be that confident. So just, if you do plan to plot this, just be a little bit careful, you know, because this is not that strong of a momentum, and we already have a demand zone, right? If you guys could again mute your mic if you're not speaking, please. If we had a demand zone, since we had the demand zone right over here, you know, this area right here, it's not that strong to be a supply zone, but it's something you can consider. So that's basically what I'm going to be looking at for tomorrow when it comes to zones. The next, but actually briefly to go back to this, what I personally do is I don't usually plot zones like the day, like right after the market closes. What I always do is I wake up 30 minutes or an hour before market opens, and that's when I plot the zones because I like factoring in either the pre-market or after-market moves. So that's what I personally do instead of just doing it right after the market closes or in the night. The next question was, does your Heikin-Ashi system work on 3 and 5 minute Heikin-Ashi candles for smaller intraday zones? Well, you could, the thing is, institutions, they don't look at that small time frames for creating zones. So it's not just the Heikin-Ashi candles that you look at. So if you were to even look at, like, let's say I personally use a 3 minute compared to a 5 minute a lot. It's just personal preference. Let me go to it. So obviously, like the the smaller time zones you go, the more zones you'll find. But the thing is, these zones are so small, so minuscule, that it's not even worth like plotting it because like institutions are not going to respect it, right? And since institutions are not going to respect it, what's the point of actually having it on your screen? If the institutions are the one that are actually moving the market, then there's no need to, you know, be able to plot smaller time frame zones. As I said in the previous video, the ones that institutions look at are the 15-minute, the 1 hour, and 2 hour time frames. So if you want to plot any zones, just go according to those. What you can plot on the 3-minute chart are like consolidation areas, like this right here. Actually, no, you don't want to really do Heikin-Ashi kind of zones. Like this right here. Whoa, you can't really see it. But this right here, you could consider as a zone, as a consolidation zone. You could see just SPY was trading, in this range. So for the 3 minute, for 5 minute smaller zones, you could plot these zones and wait for bigger momentum. And the way you would play this is you would find where volume increases to validate the movement. As you guys can see here, right in this area, volume started increasing. So right as it started increasing right here, you would enter right here, right? Or if you want to play passive, which, like less risky, which is the smarter way to trade, you wait for it to break below the box. More likely or not, it's going to test the box again. And then if you see it's still going the momentum it had before, then you just get in. So that's what you could do. But would you plot Heikin-Ashi on 3 or 5 minute time zones? No, not really, because they're not going to be respected as much since institutions are not going to be looking at that. They look at bigger time frames. Just give me one moment. My girl's texting me. Dawson, I hope that helped you out. Sorry if I couldn't give you a proper answer, but I think I somewhat answered it. Okay. Alright, next question is by SK. Charting on TOS sometimes I notice weird candles that have massive wicks, but mostly in pre-market after hours, one massive candle with wick. Happens in intraday too. The prices never go that far. Did you guys experience it? Why is that? Doesn't happen in TradingView though? You're absolutely right. I don't know why that happens. I never found an answer for it. Um, well, the answer for pre-market and after hours is because the volume is so less, right? That single trades by institutions can move the price so much, and that's why I see like all these long wicks, right? But during the actual hours, sometimes like you'll see. I remember I think 4 weeks ago, like a month ago or 3 weeks ago, we had this insanely long wick. I think, I don't know if we'll find it because I think just Thinkorswim corrected it, but we had like this massive wick out of nowhere, and it just made no sense. Yeah, I think TradingView fixed it, but it was like I think we were trading around like 440 or something, and there was just like a massive wick all the way down to like no, 370 or something like that. But eventually it got corrected. So I don't know if that's a glitch. You guys could correct me. I don't know if that's a glitch or anything. Uh, but it's definitely it's just not something important, to be honest. But yeah. But pre-market and aftermarket, the reason why it's like that is because volume is so low that volatility increases in terms of there's less people trading, so one movement, one trade can just drastically change the price. Guacamole asked, why my throat's dry, sorry. Did you always trade in options? How long have you been in options? Did you start off with stocks? I um I I always traded options, but I also traded penny stocks as well. The reason why I did stop doing it is because you would catch more penny trades in, like, right when market opens, and because I became a college student, I really don't have the time for that since my classes are usually around that time. So unfortunately, I stopped penny trading. But actual shares off of like big cap stocks, I don't trade. I don't believe in really trading shares for big shares for big companies like that. There's just not much profit to really make. But I've been trading options for 8 years. In 12 days, it's gonna be 9 years, which is I'm pretty hyped for. Next question was where do I find this garlic program? okay, okay, it's not a program. It's just an indicator I coded, which is this buying versus selling volume indicator. It's not a program. It's a indicator you can put on your Thinkorswim platform if you have Thinkorswim. I shared it in the announcements tab. If you can go check it right now, you'll find the link to add it. So if you have Thinkorswim, feel free to add it. But it's not a program. It's just, yeah. Um, that was funny to me for some reason. The next question is, how do you know reversal is starting to form or not, just to fake out a trap? Perfect question. It's going back to this basic, what I was talking about before. It's basically all volume analysis when it comes to this, right? Like, you can, as I said before, you can trade two ways. You could trade with confirmation or without confirmation. Without confirmation, you'll always be taking so much more risk than you need to, right? Like, even though volume analysis can help you out like 80% of times, there's still 20% of times when it could still fake you out, right? So we could see we got into this little like consolidation area, right? This would be referred as a drop based drop, right? Because it was this drop right here. Then we have this consolidation. This is where, like, people sell, people buy. There's just the buying and selling is kind of equaling each other out, and then we have another drop. The way to figure out if it's a drop based rally or drop based drop, it's always hard. You're not always gonna get 100%. I don't always get 100%, and I've been training for 8 years. So the way is to just always wait for confirmation and just accept the fact that you'll miss out on profits. If you do want to play on the riskier side, which of course, it's up to you. I personally don't always recommend trading risky. It depends on your portfolio side and risk management. But you would go according to volume. If you see choppy volume towards a movement, right? Like you could see in this area right here, we have this red candle, and then we also even have this light blue candle. We could even go to the 3 minute chart, right? We go to the minute chart, and we could go to this area right here. Look how choppy this volume is. Like, even though the volume stepped up in this area, we couldn't really break above this box, right? And following it, we had such reduced volume that it just didn't make sense to get into calls at this moment. So if you can see here, right, even though it's a little bit choppy, you'll see that the volume starts increasing right here gradually, right? And this is what would help us get into either puts or calls. So in this scenario, it wasn't a fake out, right? These two were fake outs, but we just had a continuous moment. Again, if you're not gonna speak, if you can please mute your mic, thank you. But yeah, that's basically again, I said I'll go over volume analysis in another live because that's a lot more information that I need to tell you guys. And once I tell you guys that, you guys would be so much better at trading. I don't know if that's good grammar, but you guys would be a lot better at trading. I think that's the better term. but I can't wait to teach you guys that, because once I teach you guys volume analysis and once I teach you guys price analysis with connection to volume analysis, you guys will be fine. Like, you guys will be doing well. So I can't wait for that moment. Just give me 1 second. I'll get to the next question. Sorry. Okay. Next question. Yeah, Provoke. Sorry I couldn't fully answer your question. That just ties in with volume analysis, so I'll definitely just go over that later since we don't have too much time. But the next question is that volume indicator in TradingView? No, not what I tried checking out TradingView. I tried searching like buying versus selling volume on YouTube for TradingView. I couldn't find anything. Since I did code it, I'll try checking if there's a way I could somehow implement it into TradingView and share with you guys. But keep in mind, opening Thinkorswim, I believe, till this day is still free. So you can literally open Thinkorswim, not use it to trade, but just use it to go based off of the charts, because I love their charts. Maybe you might not like these bright white squares. I can understand that, but I just love using Thinkorswim. I love the the powerful system you have. Like, this is my usual day trading setup. I don't have multiple monitors. I'm a college student, so I really don't have that set up, especially when I'm dorming. So, like, over here, I would just have the chart for the stock, which is usually SPY, right? Then I have the chart for the options that I'm looking at. And then over here, you would see, like, the live price. It's kind of like level 2, I guess you could say. But that's why I like Thinkorswim, because there's so much customization you could do to it. There's indicators you could personally make and stuff like that. So that's why I personally recommend TOS. Even if you're not going to use it to trade, you could definitely use it to, go use your charts and everything. Wamper, yeah, I have no idea why your thing is doing that. You probably combined your 2 indicators in the volume bar, so go to your studies section and just make sure that in the volume section it's just 1 indicator showing. Like, I'll show you. First of all, I don't use indicators. I just use the volume, and just like I quoted this indicator called like previous closing price. So if you guys see right here, it's like this dotted light blue line. Tell me if you guys want this. The reason I have it is because the previous closing price, which means like the previous day closing price, can always act as a very important support and resistance. So tell me if you guys want me to share that indicator as well, because obviously you could plot it by yourself, but this just does it for you. So let me know if you guys want this. But if you see here in studies, Whopper, I just have buying and selling volume in the lower.
You're right. I deleted another lower study and it went away.
Yeah. So that's why I was just showing like bonkers stuff for you. But yeah. Baby Wizard says he's looking at 415 and 410. I really hope that SPY doesn't reach that zone. Obviously, as you guys see my alerts, I usually trade puts, because puts are always, in my opinion, they're always, not always, they're usually less riskier, and I'll explain the psychology behind that. If you guys look at this chart, right, even though this is like the 2-hour chart and everything like that, if you see it, downtrends are so much more quicker occurring and steeper compared to uptrends, that you can make the logical conclusion that it takes time to build an upward momentum versus starting a downtrend, a bearish momentum. Sorry that I'm messing up all these words. It's like, think about it. You have a snowball, right? And if you're making this into a bigger snowball, which is quicker, rolling it up a hill that's made out of snow, or rolling it down a hill made out of snow? It's kind of the same way with stocks. Like, think about it. If people buy down here, for example, right, and they're all up in these profits, the second the stock starts trading downwards, they're so scared that they'll sell their positions rapidly, And even institutions sometimes are guilty of doing this, even though obviously they're better traders than us, they're more patient, stuff like that. You have to also factor in that sometimes retail investors kind of, put a little bit of effect into the market. So I personally always trade puts, and that's why I trade puts more than calls. Doesn't mean that calls are you shouldn't take calls, because if you go into a day thinking, oh, SPY's going to be red today or Apple's going to be red, you're not going to trade both sides, and that's going to first of all limit your profits, and that's going to just increase the risk that you imply, because you're just going to be trading, you're just going to be looking for puts, right? Or you're just going to be looking for calls. Instead, you just want to you just want to go into the day, right, and just see how the day goes. That's why a lot of you guys ask like, "Oh, what's your prediction for SPY?" And I don't necessarily ask that like answering that question as much, because I don't like thinking that way. I can plot different scenarios, like I can say like, "Oh, if SPY were to break below, like for example, I know this already happened, but let's say SPY broke below 416, like where would it go to? But also if it broke above 424, where would it go to? But I won't be like, oh, it's most likely going to go to this area. No. Because if I do that, if I say it's going to go down to 410.64 tomorrow, like, come on, since humans are stubborn, we'll stick to our plan that we had. So I'll just be looking for puts tomorrow. So that's why I just always trade both sides of the day. But yeah, 415 to 410. Sorry, I kind of went on a rant there. That's definitely we would have to pass this demand zone, like I said, and this demand zone's kind of strong. Because if you guys remember what I said, if a zone's not tested, it's called a fresh zone. Technically, we're in the testing right now, so we'll just see how this goes. Just a little reminder, you plot the zones, the supply and demand zones, with the method I showed you using Heiken Ashi, right? But then you necessarily don't have to be in the Heiken Ashi while the day trades. While the day is going on, you could just go back to your regular bars. Like I use bars, I don't use candles. I like bars a lot. It's just so simplified. So, and I like making things simple. So that's why I just plot the zones, and then the next day, right, or the same day, I just always go back to my normal bars, and I just go according to that. You don't need to stick on Heiken Ashi while you're trading and just go based off of that, right? You just use Heiken Ashi for just plotting out like the zones in the first place. Not saying that using Heiken Ashi is wrong. If you know how to use it, then definitely just go ahead, feel free to use it if it works for you. Okay. Would you prefer the 15-minute or 2-hour Heiken Ashi for tomorrow, and why? As I said, I use the 2-hour, 1-hour, and 15-minute for plotting supply and demand zones, because that's what institutions use. I personally find myself using 2-hour and 15 minutes. That's just a preference. I feel like 2 hours is a little bit better than 1 hour, because 1 hour it's obviously has more noise than the 2 hours. So that means that the 2 hour will have stronger, more valid zones compared to the 1 hour. Because as I said, the smaller the time frames, right, the weaker the zones you'll find, right? Because you find all these new zones that maybe are not that strong, and the institutions are not looking at as much. So that's why I personally like using 2 hour, and then the 15-minute I'll go to it and see, okay, if there's a really good, like really big, like this. Let's say for example, on the 2 hour, we didn't see this. It didn't classify this as like a change in momentum, right? I would I would draw this out as a demand zone if SPY was trading above this. So that's why I personally start looking at the 2 hour, then I go to the 15-minute, and then that's it when it comes to supply and demand zones. These wicks are like size of 10 candle bars. Makes you think how price can jump on. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know if you guys have seen this. I don't understand it. If you guys could tell me what this is. I see this happen all the time, and the most ridiculous one was what I said, where we were trading around 440 or 450, and then out of nowhere there was like a drop for like a millisecond from 450 to 379 on SPY, which is weird. But yeah. Oh man, Hayden's sick. You can join us. That's so sad. He's such a baller. Uh, I'm not gonna say that back, but thank you for making the wings. I'm just kidding. Oh, you hear from my voice? That's very sad. It's very unfortunate for you because you're not really getting much out of it. Um, but, but yeah, I'm actually studying for a test right after this, so you and I are in the same boat. Yeah, I don't know if you guys remember this in the first live I had with you guys. What was it, like 2 weeks back, 1 week back. Said that I started trading by using this Wyckoff strategy. It's a very, very, very in-depth strategy that you need to know every inch of, or it's very confusing. You could literally search on YouTube, and you'll find all these videos are like, oh, I'll explain in 15 minutes. It's total BS. You cannot explain in 15 minutes. Even 1 hour is very short. So even if I were to do a video on this, it would have to be across like maybe 2 live sessions, 2 hours each, to be completely honest with you. But I will tell you, the payoff is immense. Like it's Wyckoff strategy is basically the strategy that institutions use. So that's why I really would love to go over it. It ties basically supply and demand zones, distribution zones, accumulation zones. You guys probably heard me use those accumulation distribution zones recently or in the past. Consolidation zones and price and volume analysis. So it's a very important strategy. It's what the institutions use, and I can't wait for you guys to learn it as well. And will I post a video of this session? Absolutely, even though I feel like I have not really brought that much information on this session, unfortunately, but I hope I'm helping out some way. Please suggest me any good free paper trading websites, especially options. I know Thinkorswim, they let you paper trade, but before all you need to have, like, you can open an account for Thinkorswim for free, but the paper trading feature, it's like delayed by 15 minutes or 20 minutes or something like that. And the criteria used to be like you just had to have $50 in your main account for you to have live pricing on your paper trading account. But now it's $500 where you need to have it. Like you need to have liquidated $500 in your real trading account, which I think is actual stupidity. Uh, I know Weebles offers paper trading, but you guys have to correct me on this. I think it only allows you to paper trade stocks. So when it comes to paper trading options, if you can't find any good platform to do it on, just open up a Webull account, look at the option chain, choose like literally just choose a time, like choose a price that you would enter at, write it down or note it down on your phone, whatever, and just track the price and actually pretend that you're in a trade. That's the only other option. If you guys do know another good paper trading platform, do let me know that trades options because I would love to give exposure to it. Because the way I paper traded options was basically doing what I said, which was using Thinkorswim, right? But before that, I just basically used like a notebook. I would write like the price I would theoretically enter in and stuff like that. But yes, Cheesy Vice said you could paper trade on Thinkorswim options too, but you need to have $500 in your main trading account at least. You could paper trade on TradingView. You can trade on paper. You can trade on TradingView. Wow. Okay. I didn't even know that. I don't even use TradingView. I tried using the other live and I messed up so much. Okay. Yeah, Weebles is only shares, unfortunately. Let's see. Oh, cool. Someone found buying versus selling volume for TradingView. So whoever asked that before, you feel free to I'll copy this link and I'll post it in the announcements right now. Hold on, let me just post this before I get back to questions. But please ask me a few questions before we do have to get off, you know? Knowledge is the most valuable currency in the world. Other else than my love. I'm so idiotic sometimes and cheesy. Okay, let's go back. Where was the last? Oh no, we already saw this. Okay. Interactive broker. Never used interactive broker. But French Ninja, is that like you can actually paper trade options? And I heard of Mumu. I opened an account in Mumu, but I never used it because I don't know. Okay, so Interactive Broker apparently has option trading, and is it free or like option trading? So is that feature free, or you need to have some amount in your bank account? Not bank account, but your trading account. Okay, Mumu is free. Okay, Mumu is free to open a paper trading option account versus Interactive Brokers you need to have $500. Okay, so it's just like Thinkorswim for Interactive Brokers. Okay, that's interesting. Nice to know there's a lot of options out there. But yeah, do you guys have any other questions? You know, literally feel free to ask. If you can't ask on voice, if you want to ask on voice, go ahead and ask right now. If you can't ask on voice, feel free to ask in the main chat. Rosemary, if you can, mute your mic if you don't mind, if you don't have a question, please. Sorry. Thank you. You gotta do options data, no free data. But yeah, ask away. Ask away. Actually, before I got on this live, I freaking spilled. I was making myself a chocolate milkshake and I spilled it all over me. Cause I made it what, like a week ago? And it was soy milk, so soy milk doesn't expire that quickly, so I put it back in the fridge. My stupid roommate decreased the temperature of the fridge, so it was like not mid, like the medium freaking freezing temperature, and it was like maximum. So it got like, the milkshake got frozen. So then I tried, like an idiot, I freaking tried blending it, and I didn't think of the freaking gases that were trapped in the stupid freaking bottle, and it just exploded everywhere. Like it literally popped out of the blender and went everywhere. I don't know why I'm telling you guys this. This is literally not even important to you guys. Okay, so do I ever trade QQQ? QQQ is if you guys don't know, it's an ETF, just like SPY. SPY tracks the S&P 500. You have IWM, which tracks the iShares Trust, the Russell 2000 ETF, right? QQQ is more like, correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically like more technology kind of sector stocks and stuff like that. I would say if I had to rank the ETFs that I trade the most, obviously you guys can know the number one answer is what's it called? Is SPY. So I always trade SPY the most. Then right after that it's IWM, and then QQQ. I don't think I've traded in like a few months. I should definitely go back to it because why not? The reason why I like IWM more than QQQ is because like the options on QQQ are similar to SPY, or I think just a little bit more expensive. But if you check the IWM chain, as I said multiple times, if you have a small account, this is like one of the most not one of the most, but it's one of the better stocks to trade options on. Because look at this, like close to in the money options are like less than 250 or 300, more than like 90% of the times. So it's not that bad to trade options off of. So I personally always trade SPY first, then sometimes IWM, and then the other times I would trade QQQ. I'll show you guys. Like I don't think this this whole year I've not traded QQQ. First of all, this month, this is my trading log. If you guys haven't seen it, this month I've not traded QQQ or IWM. In fact, it's just all been SPY. Crazy part is it's all been like either 430 put, 425 put, or 435 put. We had a few 438s, but in February I did trade IWM. Where was it? And it was like a huge trade. Yeah, right here. I didn't alert this, but it was an 83% trade. Then we had these two alerts that went for a pretty good amount, 162%, 45%. And then these two trades that went for just 13%, 15%. Never mind. That sounded exciting in my head. Last month was nice. We had these two trades right here. One of them I did not alert, unfortunately, but this other one that I alerted went from $12 to $280. Oh my gosh. That was too clean. That was too clean. But yeah. In January, I don't think I traded QQQ either. I didn't even trade IWM. January was not a high volume trading, for me, whatever the right term is. Sorry. Let me get back to the questions. Hold on, let me just get back to my girl. She texted me. Okay. We probably have to wrap it up soon, so if you guys can kindly put in your last questions, that would be amazing. Because I do have to get back to studying, and I hope you guys can understand that. I do have a test at 9 a.m. tomorrow, 9:40 a.m., and it's right now it's 11:29 p.m. for me, so. Yeah, Ripster study, Simple Trader was talking about that yesterday, I believe, so that was a pretty good live. Buy Stock asked, what do you advise for option trading beginner? How many contracts? Buy only? What strategy do you recommend? Okay, so we'll start off with what you should trade. You should trade ETFs, lower risk, less volatility, safer in my opinion versus trading like lower cap stocks and stuff like that, or volatile stocks like Roku and AMD and Tesla especially. So don't start off with those stocks. When it comes to how many contracts, either trade with 5% of your portfolio in each trade or 10%. Never go above 20% because doing above 20% is absolutely absurd and risky. So, yeah. What strategy do you recommend? If you're talking about trading strategies, the best thing, the easiest strategy you could start learning off is kind of supply and demand zones. Like, obviously, there's a whole nother, there's so much more into it, like basically knowing when there's a fake out, when there's actually a reversal happening. But buy stock, if you actually go to the live recording via tab and you check our, we had a live on plotting supply and demand zones. That's probably one of the easiest strategies you can use because that gives a higher probability of you predicting a movement. So if you wait patiently, if you wait for confirmation, right, you could catch a reversal and you could actually make more profits than you would do. Yeah. Top 100 on Nasdaq is QQQ. Okay, thank you for answering that question. Okay. Let's see. I personally don't go according to this, even though you guys weren't asking me this. Option flows, dark pools, stuff like that. This is basically seeing unusual option orders. I personally don't use that. I feel like that will just cloud your judgment. You can maybe use it as confirmation, but I've gone just absolutely fine without using it. I do not use any AI in my trading. I don't personally believe in AI when it comes to trading. That's why, look at my chart. Oh, wrong tab. Look at my chart. Look how clean this is. There's no indicator on this. Okay, right as I said that, there's this, but this is not my actual chart. My actual chart is this one. Like, this is just pure volume analysis, right? Volume analysis and price action. And then I would, put Fibonacci's, I would put resistance and support levels, supply and demand zones, consolidation areas, accumulation zones versus distribution zones. This is all you need. If you could get to this level, right, you don't need all these fancy indicators. And maybe, there's ways to, like, I'm not saying indicators are bad to use, like what Simple Trader you said yesterday, using the, what's it called, the Ripster, whatever it's called, Ripster wave, Ripster tide, right, what'd you say? Ripster study, or Ripster wave, like, that will make you profitable, that'll make you profitable, of course, but I personally just found AI not being my personal suit, because price action and volume are the only leading indicators in the market, meaning all other indicators are lagged, because of course, like, the second volume comes in and the second price moves, it will show you the second it happens, but you'll see like all these indicators like SMAs, EMAs, VWAP, they're lagged indicators, right? So yeah, That's why I personally don't use AIs or use that much indicators on my chart. If you were curious, yeah, here you go. The zoo over here said, "Don't rely on indicators. Just focus on key levels, price action, and volume." Yeah, it's perfect right there. Think about it. If the institutions are the ones that are market makers, meaning they're the ones that move the markets, right? They cause all these movements, and all they use is price action, volume analysis, and they make all these lines and they make their own technical analysis, and maybe sometimes they'll use the VWAP, right? If they use that, then why not try to look at what they're looking, see what they're seeing, and profit off of the movement that they're going to most likely do. So that's my whole psychology behind it. Yeah, but if you use option flow and stuff like that, use as a reference guide. My bad. As Ranger Rich said. Ranger Rich, thanks for answering all these questions too. Yeah, of course, depends on the indicator. I personally would say the only, in my opinion, the most other important indicator other else than price and volume might be VWAP, since some institutions use it. EMA is also very popular too, the 9 EMA especially. So I think like for swing trades you use, correct me if I'm wrong, like the 200 MA or something like that. I personally never went to those strategies. That's just not me. I like using price action volume analysis. So I used to have a strategy that Hayden learned off of that uses Bollinger Bands. It helps plot out support and resistance levels, but I could show you guys that another day. Since you don't actually use Bollinger Bands in that strategy as like you don't use it to, I'll explain it another day. That's a whole nother live. Anything else you use for entries other than supply and demand zones? Absolutely. It's not as simple as you see this. Like, you'd use supply and demand zones. You would see how the stock is trading relative to previous prices. That's basically called price action. You know how it's trading compared to previous candles, candlestick patterns, channels, right? Basic TA. I had, yeah, like where was it? On my freaking phone, I had it plotted out where I had like a decent thing, because I was in the train today, so I only had my phone available for trading. So let me see if I could pull it up here, because for some reason it's not transferring from my TOS mobile to my my desktop TOS. So let me see if I can post it on here. Like, well, I'm saying like way too much. I'm so sorry. I sound like a spoiled girl. Here you go. Let me paste it in the main chat. This is what for today's trade. If you look at it, and I'll bring it up here on the live stream, like I just drew a very simple, just channel, right? And I entered in once we broke below that channel, the bottom trend line, and we tested it, and that's when I re-entered. Not re-entered. I entered into puts, right? Because there was just so much volume into the downside. There was less probability of it reversing into the upside, so it was a safe play. So I took it. But there's a lot more, things you could go into when it comes to, getting into entries. But you don't want to just learn everything at one shot, because if you do that, you'll never learn stuff over the long term. As I said in the previous lives, the best way to learn things is to grasp information. Try saying it or thinking it in your own words, and you remember it so much. You remember it better than just remembering as a statement that I say. So if I say supply demand zones is basically area where there's a bunch of unfilled selling or buying orders, right? You could take that, and if you want to remember it, you would say in your own words, and you would simplify it to your understanding, and that's what will get you places instead of just knowing based off what I said. You take what I said, and then you would make it into what you would understand. You full ported one of my trades and made bank. I'm gonna kill you for that. Do not full port. I consider full porting anything above 20% of your portfolio in any trade. I am, of course, thank God the trade worked in your favor. But do not do that again. I know that I'm very consistent, and you guys can see from my trading log, I am consistent. That's what I'm proud of. but I reached this stage because I did not full port, and even if I did take losses, look at this, it would be like 12% losses, right? I only had one loss last month, and the month before that I only had 2 losses, but they're 30% losses, right? But if you full ported that, right, and you got that 30% loss, that's 30% of your portfolio that's just gone. That 30% is huge, so yeah. We had a live yesterday that we recorded that Hayden, Neocentric, he was very kind to come into to sacrifice his time to explain about why you shouldn't revenge trade, learning how to not revenge trade, keeping a journal, and just accepting losses. Most of you guys are men here, and you guys have to know as a man, in life you have to accept losses. You need to know your limitations versus your abilities. Even if you lose, that's your fault. As harsh as that sounds, that is your fault. Even if I had like a trade and I of course lost and you followed it, of course it's my fault too for trading, but I lost on my end. It was your fault for following without doing your own due diligence, right? And countering my trade and stuff like that. So, you need to put blame on yourself, realize that you made a mistake, accept it. I'm not saying that you didn't do this, I'm just saying in general. Accept the mistake you made, take it like a man, take it like a human, and just the next time, the next opportunity you take, you don't revenge trade it, you don't just full port your account or just put more, right, or try chasing a trade, because if you do that, you'll dig a deeper hole. That's exactly what happened when I first started trading. I took my account from $300 to 24K. I've kept on full porting that whole time, and then it happened in 1 month, so you could basically tell. If I took it from $300 to 24K, I was basically full porting on almost every play. Did one bad trade, took it from 24K to 1K. During that process, I kept on full porting again and again, trying to revenge trade, get back into profits instead of losses, but it worked against me. When I reached 1K, which was, oh my gosh, it's such a depressing moment to even think of, but when I reached that moment, I realized I was doing absolutely everything wrong, and ever since then, I've not gone more than 20% of my position, 20% of my portfolio in each trade. Usually I do 10%, not 20%, because 20% itself is very risky. But 10% going into 10% each trade, and I've been doing absolutely fine. I am going to be I've actually, a while back, I'm not very honest with my portfolio size, because in my religion, you bring more eyes upon you. It's just bad, it's called bad eyes. You don't want to have bad eyes on you. But I've eclipsed 8 figures recently in trading, and I'm gonna tell you that's not from full porting. So that's basically one lesson you want to take. Do not have a full port. What do you use your option price chart on TOS? Okay. Basically, I'll make another live about this in detail. The way you want to do it is you could add another grid, right? And when you add another grid, let me show you. Let me do it very quickly because not everyone has TOS, and I do need to get off quick. Basically, what you would do for the current stock chart that you have, you go to Style, Save Style, right? Then you would save the style. So it would save this one as garlic parmesan, whatever. That's what I named it as. And then sorry, excuse my language. I did not mean to save it as that. Actually, never mind. I didn't mean to save it as that. So I saved it as that style, right? What you do, you go to this area right over here, go from 1 grid to 2 grids. You'd find this thing popping up, right? You go to this chart back over here, right next to the ticker symbol. You go to this area right here, set this to 1, right? It will say 1 red. You set to 1 red. You set this one over here to 2 yellow. You would then go to trade, right? Set this one as well to 1 red. Go to the stock option chain that you want to look at. So for example, we'll look at SPY. You go to the option you want to look at right over here. So for example, you go to the 419 put, right click it, go to send SPY, and then press 2 yellow, right? And if you go back on charts, you go back to this area right over here, you see these tabs. You unclick dashboard and you click active trader, and you unclick dashboard, sorry, my bad. And then you would press chart. And then you would find this chart over here for the options. And then if you go over, not here, but if you go over here, you press style, load style, and then you go to the style that you saved in this this previous chart. Look at it. You get exactly how you want it. So hopefully that, I'm sorry I rushed that, but that's just it's just a way to look up the charts while also looking at your stock charts. Sorry to go through that quickly. Unfortunately, not a lot of people have TOS. So yeah. Oogie, hopefully, Oogie, that's a funny name. Hopefully that answered your question somewhat. I'll go into it another day on how to actually, use it properly and stuff like that. Did I do a lesson on reading price action? Nope, but I will in the future. So that's definitely something you will enjoy watching for sure. Use RSI for swings. Actually, the next live that we have, since we did do supply and demand zones, there is 2 other ways you could trade supply and demand zones using, where's my notes? Using the RSI and, sorry, let me check. Using the, I just want to go back to this so I know what I'm talking about. You could use a MACD, not the RSI, the MACD and the stochastic. So I'll go over how to use that while trading supply and demand zones. If you want to use indicators and you're comfortable using indicators, then yeah. How do you get that volume on your mobile? For some reason, it does not. Wait, what? You're talking about this volume, like this green volume? Because the one that you see on my screen right here, it glitches out and it just comes out as just straight green bars on the.
No, on the mobile.
Yeah, on the mobile, you can't get what you see on the. You can't get this on
Oh.
mobile. Yeah, it just glitches out and it doesn't work. Unfortunately, I don't know why. It's the same thing for me. As you see in the screenshot right over here, it just shows as green bars.
For sure.
Yeah. Sweet, you won't do it again? It's okay. That happens. That happens. Just accept your mistake, learn from your mistakes, and just don't repeat it, If you ever make a bad trade, it's all good. Take a final, yeah. Ranger Rich, again, amazing point again. Always take a break if you're not trading right, just step away. That's the best thing that can help you. Do you trade margin or cash? Cash, always cash. Can I talk about risk management? We had a live talking about risk management yesterday, posted by Hayden on this server. He recorded it, so he just has to send me a recording so I could just post it on YouTube so you guys could see it. So definitely should look into it. Margin is very risky. It's like having a debit card for trading, a credit card for trading. So how scary is a credit card in the first place? Because it's money that's not really yours and you're using it. So if you lose on a margin using margin, you're kind of in debt. And it's not something I kind of like. So I never trade a margin. Show them how to find a timestamp and scale of the options. What do you mean?
Like when you go to trader and then you can see the trade log, like the options, and then you can go down to the bottom. So watch, click trade by analysis.
Wait, you're gonna share your screen or kind of confused?
Oh no, I was watching your screen.
Oh, okay.
Telling you.
Go.
Yeah, so next to monitor it says trade. Top left, like chart scan, and then scroll down.
You talking about?
It says option times and scales.
Oh,
no, not the spreads, the times and scales.
Yeah, okay. And what did you want to basically say about this, if you don't mind me asking?
And so like people that are using like option sweeps for references, for people that use TOS, you can come here and check those call sweeps, because like one thing with call sweeps, to find out if they're bullish or not, the call sweep will get filled at the ask price. So then like if you want to see what the stock's going to do, if it's going to move off of that call sweep, if you want to follow it, you can come here and check the timestamps, and you'll be able to see the volume in the timestamp full when all that call sweep gets filled and at what price. So it's just a good reference point to check like if you're using call sweeps for a trade. So this is just one tool that helps.
Yeah, I remember briefly looking over this like months ago, but I never, went into it. So that's actually pretty useful. Thanks, Rich. Yeah, thanks again. Do you trade inside bars? Yeah. I'm not really good at that much. It's crazy. I've been trading for 9 years now, and I suck at terminology. So, guys, let's search up what a freaking inside bar is. Watch, I'm gonna know what this is. I'm gonna feel like an idiot. Yup, I'm retarded. Okay. Yeah, so. Okay. Yeah, I do trade off of it, kind of what I did today. It's basically like a pullback, or it's sometimes a pullback or showing like a reversal. It is a little bit risky to trade. I kind of trade the next bar and next two bar, or the 2 bars after it. But that's just personal preference. How is the highest volume candle with almost all buying result with such a small move up in price? It was the last 5-minute candle in SPY. Well, this is basically showing that it's just basically showing that there was an even force between buyers and sellers, and it eventually led to the volume being more selling volume than buying volume, and the buying volume couldn't overlap it. So that's why, like, it closed just a little bit. It closed a tiny bit before below its open, but that's because the volumes were just equally somewhat matched. Yeah. If you can see on your chart, like, you could it's weird sometimes. Like, the way you just have to read it is it's showing that most of this was selling volume and a little bit of it was buying volume, but that buying volume it was strong enough to somehow kind of like make it go, trade up. Wow, make it go upwards. I'm a little kid, but it made it go up, as you see, like it went to high of the candle, right? But then the selling volume was just much more efficient or stronger, whatever term you want to use, that it brought it down. So that's just the way you could look at it. Because sometimes you could have very weak buying volume, but it can inflate the price by a lot because there's not that much selling volume at the time to compete with it. Hopefully that somewhat answers your question. But I guess we would have to, come to a conclusion unless you guys have any questions. I'd love to answer them. Quick questions, though, if you don't mind, instead of longer answers. I mean, longer questions. But feel free to ask. I'll give 2 more minutes for like questions if you guys don't mind asking. But if not, then I'll end the live right here. I know this was not as informational as we would have wanted it to be, but at least I hope I answered some questions.
Could that mean that the buyers were buying on a little bit lower and the sellers were selling even lower? That it stayed all lower?
So there's multiple situations to this. One situation is the buyers started at open, right, and they inflated the price to the top of the wick, but then the buying volume was so weak that the selling volume was easily able to overcome it, and that's what caused it to close below its open. Even though there's so much volume, you're like, oh wait, that's like barely any move. But that's a possibility. The other possibility is what you said, basically.
Okay. I guess I was trying to get like, what do you really get out of the proportion of green to red on those candles?
Yeah. So when it comes to market close, there's a lot of volatility. That's why you don't see me trade a lot near market close. It's always like 15 to 30 minutes after market open, all the way till it's Eastern time for me. So like 9:40, 9:50, all the way till 12, maybe. Then I'll trade from 1 to 2. But that's it, because when it comes to market close, there's so many people closing on opening trades for swings or closing day trades and stuff like that. So sometimes like all these candles, they wouldn't make as much sense as they would, in the previous, times, or you know what I
You
mean?
know, just looking back earlier in the day, I can see that it's more logical. You've got a candle
Yeah.
that's half wick and half body, and it's about a 50-50 green and red.
Yeah, exactly. So as I said, like when it comes to market close, you're not always going to see the most logical stuff. That's why even on Fridays, you don't see me trading around like 3 o'clock. Sometimes I do, but it's very risky to do that because it's very volatile.
All right, thanks again.
Of course, man. No need to thank me, guys. It's a pleasure coming on here. What would be amazing is if you guys could support the YouTube channel. I was, I always had not a dream, but I was like, I wanted to always have a YouTube channel. So pretty cool. I got 100 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I feel proud. I sound like a little child when I'm 20. This is great. But yeah. So if you guys don't mind supporting that, I left like the videos. Feel free to watch it. It's not mandatory at all. Just it's in announcements. But hold on. I think I could post a link. Let's see. I'll just post the announcements. But yeah, if you guys don't mind, I post in live recording actually. If you guys don't mind supporting it, why not? It's nothing. It's nothing mandatory, but it would be amazing. Do hope yesterday's live with Simple Trader did help you guys a lot, because that's another analysis. Uh, wow, my mind is analyst. Wow, analyst who put in their thoughts, and he explained the Rippertide, whatever it's called, and then the Fibonacci. So hopefully that helped out. We had Hayden come on yesterday. He was able to talk about risk management and stuff like that. Obviously, like I'll be looking to get in more analysts. If you guys want, just put some names below. I'll try contacting them and stuff like that. Hopefully, they'll be able to come on. I have a very good connection with a lot of people. I've been on Discord for 6 years now in the Discord community. So yeah, I usually have connections with most people, so we could get stuff going, even if I had to pay them. Why not? I would love to hear their thoughts. I'd love to get you guys to hear their thoughts. So definitely leave some names below if you have any in mind. But yeah, any last questions if you guys don't mind? Can we get Doom? Yeah, I'm good friends with Doom, so I'll definitely contact him and let him ask him if he could come on. Let's get to 1K subs. That would be a dream. That'd be a dream. Thanks for those who subscribe right now. I'm so sorry for my voice cracks. Who knows? Maybe I'm getting another growth spurt. I can't even say growth spurt. Oh gosh. Again, any other questions before I embarrass myself even more? Am I trading tomorrow? Well, I have a test at 9:40 a.m. Market open is at 9:30, so I will be trading from 9:40 to, when does my class end? 12, I believe. So I won't be trading from 9:45 to 12. I'll see if I could trade afterwards, but I'm not gonna rush into anything. If the setups are there, I'm gonna get into it. If the setups are not there, I'm not gonna get into it. But I know in your respective servers, obviously we're not gonna talk about server names, but every server I'm in, I do always a background check on all the analysts there, how good the content is, and basically almost all servers I'm in, they have very good analysts that you can follow. If in case, I can't alert. So, you know. But yeah. Any other questions? You guys can either talk in voice or main chat. Also, do know if you guys are shy showing your voice, I understand those who can't actually talk because, you know, maybe everyone's sleeping and stuff like that. But if you guys are shy, letting us hear your voice, just my voice is terrible, so it can't get worse than this. So just feel free to talk if you guys do have questions. But yeah, I'll give another minute for questions. I need to drink some water.
What you looking at for tomorrow?
Who said that? I feel like I've heard that voice before. Anyway, regardless of who that was, what I'm looking at tomorrow, as I said, I'm not gonna be making any predictions, but like I'm gonna be trading both ways, obviously. But if I were to think of possible scenarios, let's see here. There's obviously gonna be it's not gonna be in depth, right? We did already have a double top. We had this drop base drop here. We're gonna go into this demand zone. So if I were to guess anything, right? If I were to predict, I would guess that since this is a very fresh zone, obviously don't just now get into calls tomorrow morning. Wait for confirmation.
My
but
thing, I'm sorry to cut you off, but my thing is how big do you think Apple's gonna move the market with the event tomorrow?
there's an event tomorrow for Apple. What's going on with Apple tomorrow? I'm not familiar with news as much. I trade off of TA. So what's
I
Apple's event
think it was.
tomorrow?
I think it was for the VR or something like that, but it was like they had a bunch of news under that Apple stock, and it was like um, habitat a key pattern and stuff like that. But tomorrow, I guess they have a big event, and so I guess we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, obviously since it's news and it's not rumor anymore, it's going to be risky to trade it because the popular saying is buy the rumor, sell the news. So if you were to look anything, just look at the reactions of the supply and demand zones on it, which I'll tell you right now where it is. Whoops. That was the most unmanliness whoops I've ever heard in my life. I can't believe I just said that. Let's see. So let's go back to 2-hour chart.
Is it the thing about Apple getting on Xfinity platform? Whoever said that.
Yeah, can someone clarify that for me, please?
You might know more than me, bro. I just know it's news with Apple.
I was just looking at the news for today, and the first thing it came up with was that made its way onto the Xfinity platform.
It's pretty big, to be honest. But if anything, if we still open around the same range tomorrow, if it is good news, we could probably see a bounce off of this zone right here, and you trade into supply zone. And then we would just have to see how this trades. But I personally don't trade Apple too much, and I don't usually trade on days when there's news for certain tickers. So news is always dangerous to not dangerous but risky to trade. So since the rumor is kind of somewhat over, I think it is riskier to trade. So yeah, unless you find a good setup, you find or good just quality setup, then enter. Don't just trade based off of what you think might happen, if you get what I mean. But you would look basically for these two zones, which is 150.
It says Apple is hosting a new event tomorrow, expecting to announce maybe Mac, phone, and a new iPads. So I mean, it's just a announcement, pretty much.
Oh, okay. All right.
But maybe with the Xfinity, that might be added onto it, so I'm not even sure. But that's why I was like, it says it's a big day for Tuesday, so that's why I was like, if Apple owns like what 6% of the S&P,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
then
see,
SPY
that's
would move as well. Is that what you're saying?
yeah. So I was gonna say if Apple does a big push or something, then that could move the market.
Yeah, definitely. So, it's definitely important. I'll definitely keep an eye on Apple tomorrow and see how it goes.
All right.
But yeah, if you guys are good, I actually would feel nice ending the live here. We're kind of actually pretty long. Can I talk about Wickfield plays and is this the same as Gapfield plays? I definitely will talk about this later. But definitely not right now. It's not the time as it's a little bit more in depth. So any questions before we get off? Any thoughts? Any opinions? Thank you for joining. It's been a pleasure. But yeah, I guess that will conclude our live for today. Today was just a quick Q&A. The next live we'll have will be like the part two of the supply and demand live that we had. It's gonna go over the MACD and the stochastic and how you can use it parallel to train the supply and demand zones, so you could get familiar with confirmation. You could find more confirmation in your trades. So yeah, I'll definitely go over that the next live. But it's a pleasure having you guys on. It's a pleasure to be able to teach you guys, and I hope you guys were somewhat able to learn something in this short amount of time. Sorry for my voice cracks and horrible grammar. English was not my first language.
You wouldn't know it. Your English is fine.
I hope so. I hope
Better
so.
than any native English speakers.
Thanks. But yeah, good night, guys. Thank you for attending. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Good night.
See you. Good night.
Later, bro.
See you, man.